Hi everyone, and welcome to another week of the Tourism Teacher Talk. Today we have Jenny Lynn who's come to talk to us. Hi Jenny.
Hello Hayley, thanks for inviting me on.
Thank you so much for coming. I've been following Jenny for a long time on social media and she has such amazing adventures, so I wanted to take the liberty to invite her on and talk a little bit about that. So Jenny, can you just introduce yourself and tell us who you are?
Yeah, sure. I'm Jenny and I live in the UK with my husband and two boys who are now 7 and almost 6 years old. I've been blogging now for almost 5 years, and as a family, we love to take on adventure family travel. And with the boys, we have lived in India, we've hiked the Himalayas, we've overlanded Africa in a Land Rover, and we just love taking those adventures together. And I share that through the blog. And then a few years ago, it was time to come back to the UK, and we now live in the Peak District, which is the oldest national park in the UK for those people that don't know. So beautiful area of the UK. And I also run now Peak District Kids, which is a new website I set up over a year ago.
Wow. So as I say, I've absolutely loved following your adventures. And what I wanted to talk to you today is all about family travel and the family travel industry. And actually, I've been asked to write a book chapter on family travel that's due at the end of the month, which I haven't written yet. So I should probably get on that. So I'm hoping you'll give me some great inspiration for the chapter too. I think that the family travel market is one that's often underestimated, and a lot of people are perhaps a little bit nervous and apprehensive. So I just wanted to, get your perspective on it because you've got loads of experience. So can we start off with you just giving us an overview of the family travel market? What do you think it's like? Is the travel and tourism market typically set up for families? What's your experience?
Okay. I would say that the family travel market has gone through a whole transformation. I think when we were growing up, family travel was perceived as a package holiday, where you'd get on a flight and you'd go to a hotel where everything was included. There was a pool there for the kids, or you'd go camping. It was all about keeping it easy with kids. I think as time has progressed, family travel has had a more adventurous angle to it. And more, maybe it's the parents who were backpacking 20 years ago and now like, oh, I want to continue that way of life. And they've now extended that to that type of travel with children. So really now, family travel is any sort of travel, but with the kids. And there's a belief that it is a whole different type of travel altogether. But as parents, we're trying to normalize it and say that actually it's travel as it always is, but we've just got our kids along now. There shouldn't be something too much special about it.
And do you find that, when you book hotels or tours and things, do you find they're typically set up or they for families, or they can provide for your needs? Because families obviously do sometimes have slightly different needs.
Yeah, they do have different needs. I mean, for example, when we've done our safaris in Africa, we have always avoided doing tours with that because we don't want our kids with their needs of going for a wee or their elation of seeing elephant poo disturbing someone getting their once in a lifetime shot of a cheetah. So in that instance, yeah, there are some aspects where it perhaps isn't set up. But on the whole, I find that more and more places are set up for families. And it's not necessarily about having an extravagant playground or an extravagant kids club or something. It merely is all about making families feel welcome. So, for instance, Khao San Road down Bangkok, the famous tourist hub down there, for years of decades, that was known as Backpacker Central. These days, there are high chairs. For me, that makes it family friendly. It's the case that you can go along there, you can put your kid in a high chair, but more importantly, the staff are really eager to make you feel welcome and play with the kids. And so for me, that makes it family friendly, where supposedly places like going to a French restaurant, where they have very traditional ways of eating and it's a long drawn out meal, for me, that's not family friendly. It's all about making families feel welcome.
Yeah. So have you traveled in China with the kids at all?
No, no, we did that pre-kids actually. We traveled China. Oh, that would have been, God, 2007. So looking from your photos and your travels with the kids, China has totally transformed its travel market since we were there. And all the things you get to do with your kids, there's some fantastic places you've been.
Yeah, and they're so kid friendly in China. But one thing that gets me that I haven't, and my kids are very young, so you've got more experience of this than me. But I haven't had this in any other country. That when we try to book hotels, we have quite a problem actually in China, because the rooms say they're family friendly, they're family rooms, and they have a tent and they have toys and they're great, but they almost always only ever have one bed. And we're all into co-sleeping, and that was fine when it was just one kid. But when it's a double bed for four of us, it's not ideal. So that's something
Yes.
we struggle with. And have you found that anywhere else?
Yes, we found that in India and Nepal quite a lot as well, actually. And I think it's the cultural traditions that families do all share a bed. And that's just the way it is over there. So especially if you are doing budget travel with a family, I think sometimes you just have to change your expectations to do that. And I think when we were in India, when we traveled Nepal and Sri Lanka with our kids, they were 4 and 2 years old. And yeah, same as yours now. And to be honest, we co-slept a lot. Our boys didn't sleep too well anyway, so it wasn't too much of a big deal for us. And you can spend more money and you can go to like a really nice 5-star hotel and you can make sure that you've got the bed configuration that you want. But for us as a family, we're very much budget family travelers as well. So we just kind of put up with that. But then as time has moved on with the kids and just the situation with COVID and everything, we have our bongo now. So more of our travel, and more families are doing this, their travel is all about self-contained camper vans, really. That's a huge market now for families, because perhaps what you're saying is it's just nice that everyone has their beds sorted out.
Yeah, I think now is a great time to be in the camper van business as well, isn't it? The sales must be through the roof right now.
It is nuts, especially here in the UK. It is absolutely nuts. And here in the Peak District, farmers are setting up their lands and saying, "Yeah, you can go and camp in here, and here's my fee." And it's a huge market, especially for families all throughout Europe here, actually.
Yeah. Well, my dad's just bought one as well, and he'd never mentioned that he wanted a camper van before, and now he's got one. So I think if my dad's doing it, everyone must be doing it. Yeah, interesting. So overall, you think that family travel is quite doable, and the market is pretty much set up for it in most places, would you say?
It is. I think it's all about adjusting expectations, really. I mean, I'm sure there's some families still want a pool, and they want the water park, and they want kids clubs, and it's like, if you want that, that is out there and it's quite easy to find.
Yeah.
But if you're looking to travel as you did as a backpacker back in the day, as it so were, it still is very doable. But I think it's more down to the fact that you travel to places where kids are very welcome. And at the end of the day, parents want a break. Parents want a break from their kids, especially if you're full-time traveling. And if you're in a scenario whereby someone can look after your kids, even if it's just whilst you have a drink of wine and the waiters are playing with the kids or something, or there's just a toolbox. A toy box. It doesn't have to be. It doesn't have to be a lot to make it family friendly. I just think it's more about the ethos and how welcome a family feel, to be honest.
Yeah, I totally agree with all of that. So I took the liberty of taking this beautiful picture from your website. I love it. This is Morocco, right?
It is. I can never pronounce it. It's Chefchaouen. Yeah, it's in the north. It's the blue city, and Morocco is a dream to travel with kids. We've been there 3 times with our boys, actually. And actually, it's on our list to go down, to drive down there with the bongo as soon as we can. Yeah, it's an absolute dream for kids. And I mean, some people would look at that photo and see all the health hazards. But again, and actually my little one there, you can see Ezra with the orange t-shirt. He's got a broken arm. He broke his arm 2 days before we flew to Morocco.
Oh no.
And I think that's what I mean. If you found with family travel, it's just parenting with a different backdrop, really, isn't it? You still got all the complications and the hardship and the challenges of being a parent, but you've got a different backdrop all the time. So if you're a parent who's very flexible with that and happy to go with the flow, then but yes, back to your question, is it growing? Most certainly it is, definitely growing, and I think it's evolving as well. And I think parents are very much coming to realize the benefits of traveling with their kids, the educational benefits, the cultural benefits, and also the bonding benefits as a family. I think what COVID has all taught us as well is that things can change very, very quickly, and don't wait for those moments to happen. I think more and more people are realizing, do you know what? I want to get out now with my kids and see the world, have those memories. And more people are doing it, and because of social media as well, more people are talking about it, so they're normalizing it. And I'll be honest, I'm in a bit of an echo chamber, because this for me, it's normalized. This is how we travel. It's how I've always traveled, and I know you and lots of other people that travel with their kids, so I'm seeing it all the time in my social media feed. So for me, it's very normal. But then every now and again, someone will stop me and be like, "How do you do that with your children?" It's like it just feels normal, but then it's planted the seed with them that actually you don't have to do a Center Parcs holiday. You don't have to do a Eurocamp holiday. Don't get me wrong, I love Eurocamp, and there's a time and place for it. But I think more parents are realizing the benefits of travel with their kids.
I see so many people who sort of say, my kids are bigger now, I can travel again. And that's such a shame, because actually, as you say, kids get so much out of it, and you don't have to stop traveling until your kids are older at all.
Obviously, no, totally. Yeah, totally. I totally agree. And you the places you go with your kids are phenomenal as well. In fact, that's something that really bugs me, and it's something I also fell into the trap. So Jay and I, my husband Jason and I, we met at university, and we traveled as much as we could since we first met. And to be honest, we put off having kids because we thought that meant we couldn't travel. And we even organized a big trip, a big one blowout before we tried to get pregnant, because we had it in our head that as soon as you have kids, you can't travel, because then I didn't know anyone else doing it at all. So we fell pregnant and got back to UK and had the scans. But travel is something you never get out of your system. This whole thing like, yeah, I'll do a blowout and it's done. I'm done. I'll move on with my life. It is always there. And I remember so many people saying to me, well, you won't be able to travel now. You won't be able to travel now. But lo and behold, it didn't take us long just to slip back into it and finding our way with traveling. And what you're saying about kids, people waiting till kids are older, I think kids are challenging at every single stage. It's like babies and toddlers are totally all-encompassing, absolutely exhausting, but they go along with what you say all the time. If you want to go and visit a temple, they'll come with you, because it's like, yes, we do what mummy and daddy say. And they also nap, so you have that downtime during the day. We're just getting to the stage now where my eldest is really into football, so we're having to organize our weekends around football clubs. And then as you get older, there's the devices. Kids have a stronger relationship with their friends and their reliance on technology and everything. So it's every single stage of parenting is a challenge. So just go when you can, really.
Yeah. And something else that's crossed my mind lately is, because of COVID, there have been many more opportunities to get your education online. And I know a lot of people do a sort of world schooling, where they teach their kids at home and teach them through their travel experiences, etc. Do you think that more people might embrace sort of long-term family travel because now there are more schools that are opening up to do online education?
Do you know what? I think it's going to be really interesting how this develops, because it could go one of two ways. I think parents are going to fall into one of two camps. One camp is going to be, wow, we had lockdown, we experienced homeschooling. That's really, really, really not for us. And
Yeah.
however much you say to those people, homeschooling whilst you're traveling is a totally different ball game to homeschooling from your dining table. It's they've had that negative experience,
Mm.
and it I think that's so. I know a lot of families are now like, oh, do you know what, we thought about it, but actually we're just going to stick by having our home base and doing lots of regular trips.
Mm.
But then on the other hand, you've got those families that have perhaps realized that a school academic education isn't the be all and end all, and that there are other ways to educate your children. And yes, you can homeschool on the road, you could do it yourself. Or I know one family from Australia, Wild Family Travel, they traveled for 14 months with their girls when they were 12 and no 11 and 13. So that's quite a tricky age.
Mm.
And they tried homeschooling, didn't work for them. It was too much of a battle, and they left it. But all those experiences those girls had on their travels, visiting temples, talking to different people all the time, going to Auschwitz, like it was a permanent field trip. When they went back to school, their teachers commented and said, these girls are now way ahead. So those
Wow.
experiences, and then you've got it. Then you've got the international schools, which are opening up more to people being able to put their kids in for a month or 2 or 3 months. So some families are looking to do 2 months travel, settle for a bit, put their kids in an international school, and then you've got also now, online tuition. A friend of mine has set up Tuition Up, and she can do online classes. In fact, she does Chinese lessons with kids. She used to live in China too. She sets up online tuition with kids. And she was a teacher. She's done a master's, and you've got that one-on-one with that. And so I think there are more tools now available for parents to homeschool their kids whilst they are traveling, and there's different approaches. But I do think it's going to go into two camps. Some parents are like, right, let's do it, let's just go for it. This is going to be fantastic for our family. And other parents are like, no, lockdown killed that idea.
Yeah. That's a really good point, and it will be interesting to see how it unfolds. So, what improvements can travel and tourism businesses and the travel industry in general make to better suit family travellers? What are the bits that you think aren't as great as they could be?
Do you know, a big thing for us is meal times. It's restaurants that open up late. And I think it's more of an English thing. I know in England, our kids eat sometimes like 4 o'clock or 5 o'clock in the afternoon. So it's frustrating when you go to a place and they perhaps don't open till 9 in the evening, like in Spain, for example. Which is why actually I really like taking the kids to Asia, because there's food available all over the place with the street markets, and fantastic.
Here in
Yeah,
China, always eating.
yeah, exactly, and it's really accessible. So, but I think as what I was saying at the beginning, it's not necessary. You haven't got to do a lot to make it family friendly. But bare essentials, have staff that love kids, that as soon as the parents walk in, they come and high five the kids. Honestly, walking into a hotel and a staff member coming up and high fiving my kids, I'm like, oh, family friendly place. That's all it takes for me. Honestly, you don't need much at all. Then if you have a little toy box in the corner, it's new toys. It hasn't got to be much at all. We stayed in a place in Sri Lanka. It was a really basic hut, but it was run by another family. And all it was, and they had 2 kids, and their kids asked to play with my kids, and they went into their house to play with their toys. Family friendly. that family hadn't done anything. It was family friendly. It's really, they don't have to do much at all. It's just think about what makes the parent's life easier. And of course, like high chairs and that help. A cot helps as well. But really, if you can go to a place and hand the parents a beer and the staff can play with your kids for a bit, all parents are going to be telling everyone about this place.
Yeah, yeah, totally agree. Toys are definitely a winner in my family. Yeah.
Exactly. And they don't have to be much at all, like just new books and it's a new toy. It's an interest for the kids. You haven't got to go out and spend expensive Lego or an expensive train set or something. Like a ball, a bat and ball. That's
Yeah.
all you really need.
So, how has the way that you travel changed since you had kids then?
So this is a really interesting question. My initial reaction is quite a defensive one. It's like, I haven't changed. I have not changed at all. We travel as we always have. That's a lie. We have changed, and it's a natural progression, and maybe it's us getting older as well. But the way we travel has changed. It hasn't necessarily changed where we go. Like we took our kids overlanding Africa for 101 days. We've still done we've still done those sort of trips. Although places like when we lived in India, we decided not to take them to Varanasi, for example, where you have the cremation of the bodies on the river. It's like they were 2 and 4 years old. I didn't really want to explain that to my kids. And places of very, very high altitude. So obviously they're extreme. Like I wouldn't take them. Like freighter travel, you can't do freighter travel with it. So there are obviously scenarios where you can't. But us personally, how we've changed, the main thing is we've slowed down our pace considerably. I think often when we were younger, before kids, we would try and tick as many places off. We'd be like, right, we're only going here once in our lives. Let's try and do as much as possible in that time. And now with the boys, and I don't know if it is the boys to say, I think maybe I'm growing up, I'm becoming an adult, but we've embraced a slower travel, and which allows for a deeper travel, and you gain those deeper connections with a place, and you get to explore more, but you also just have that downtime to make it more relaxing, because at the end of the day, parenting is tough. And it is exhausting. And as parents, we haven't got the energy to run around ticking as many things off as possible anymore. So I don't know if it's the kids. I think it's more us, really, why we've changed.
Yeah, we're exactly the same. And actually, there are predictions, aside family travel aside, but there are experts have predicted that slow travel is going to be bigger post-COVID, because people have appreciated just taking that step back and slowing things down, because a lot of people have been forced into it, haven't they? So it'll be interesting to see whether the slow travel movement gets a lot bigger for families and for other people as well.
I think I totally agree with that. I think the fact that getting on a plane or crossing a border for now, for the next few years, is going to be a lot more complicated. And to go through that with kids, it's like, well, let's just stay longer in this country. And also, more parents are able to do remote working now. I mean, both my husband and I are working from home today. The only reason we're here in this place is because our kids go to school here. But when they're not in school, we don't have to be here now. So we have more time up our sleeve to take on slow travel and remote work, because remote working is very much been normalized through this pandemic too.
Yeah, and that's going to open up so many opportunities and so many doors. But
most definitely.
Too far off track. So, what are the biggest benefits of traveling with children? I know you already mentioned a few.
Oh, the biggest benefits. It's the memories. It's totally the memories. I'm not going to sugarcoat it and say it's easy, but personally, I find it easier than looking after the kids in lockdown at home. It's it's the memories that I particularly look at those first 2 years. So my boys are 18 months apart, and when Ez was 9 months, Arthur, I can't do the maths in my head. Arthur was 18 months older, so that almost like, yeah, he was 2. So Ez was walking, and oh my God, it was exhausting. It was absolutely exhausting. My boys didn't sleep. Honestly, all I remember from those early years are our travels. I remember going to Morocco. I remember a Scotland road trip. I remember going to temples in Thailand. I remember going to the big Grand Palace and the monks seeing us and taking us back and joining them for a meal. And that's the other thing, actually, of the benefit of traveling with kids. It breaks down those barriers. So I'm sure you've done it as well, but with our kids, we've returned to countries that we traveled pre-kids and post-kids. Totally different vibe. Totally different vibe. It's like haggling with a tuk-tuk driver in India. All it takes is my little kid to go, hi, and you're back on the meter. It's that the kids break down those barriers, and you see the travel through their eyes, and you see the wonder. God, I sound cheesy now, don't I? Sound really cheesy, but you see the wonderment that they look at all the little things, and when you're hiking, they will slow down to look at a worm or look at a flower or something like that, and they see things that you wouldn't have noticed. So it totally transforms travel, and we have found that we have traveled to so many places again with the kids now, and hand on heart, all those experiences with the kids have been far more rewarding than they were pre-kids.
Yeah, I mean, I would totally agree with that as well. And the kids, you often end up speaking to people you wouldn't have spoken to otherwise because the kids draw their attention, etc. So it definitely does break down barriers.
Definitely.
So then tell me about which of your trips that you've done with the kids have been the most exciting.
Do you know, this isn't even with the kids. This is throughout our whole life. The best trip we've ever done was those 101 days overlanding Africa. And you knew I was going to say that. You found the Land Rover picture. Yeah.
Picture.
That trip was a dream. It was we got this Land Rover through acquaintances in South Africa, and you can see on the top there we had roof tents, and we drove from South Africa, Mozambique, Malawi, Tanzania, Zambia, Namibia, and back to South Africa again. And
self or with a guide?
Oh, totally, all self-drive. We did it all ourselves. And that's, I mean, I'm a huge advocate of when traveling with kids, do it on your own. Just do it yourself, because you have the flexibility to come and go as you please. And definitely, I mean, a lot of the safari parks in Africa, you can't actually go on the tours with kids under the age of 16. You have to book your own tour, which becomes super, super pricey. But actually, when you do it on your own as a self-drive, I mean, Etosha in Namibia, I think entrance is $2. And then is it like $4 per adult, and kids are free? It's like, it's very affordable, very affordable. And it's, I mean, as you know, they want to wee and poo at the most awkward times. So it just, so we self-drove that whole trip, camped pretty much every single night, and didn't really plan where we were going. There were some days we'd hit the road and be not very sure where we'd be going that night. And incredible trip.
Wow, it sounds amazing. And the kids talk about that a lot now still?
Oh God, yes, definitely. I mean, Ez was 2 when we started that trip, and Arthur was 4. And I remember we went to Victoria Falls on the Zambia side, and the boys were like running around playing in the spray, and there was this older English lady behind me who suddenly piped up and went, "They won't remember this, you know."
Oh, isn't it annoying when people say that?
And I was like, at the time, I was like, no, they probably won't, but we're enjoying this together, and I'm enjoying it, and my life doesn't go on hold for having kids. But the funny thing is, they do remember it. I've got this theory where people believe that kids don't remember things because parents are so fixated on a routine in those early years that there's no difference for the kid's brain to establish any differences, and also there's no talking points for the parents further on in life. But if you've had these epic moments in their early years, that is something for them to latch onto and something for you to talk about in years to come. And I'm sure my boys, when they talk about Africa all the time. And I think for my eldest, it has transformed. He's such an environmentalist. And I think a lot of that has come from that Africa trip. But when they talk about the Africa trip now, I'm sure they've got some warped memories of it, but they still talk about Victoria Falls. They talk. Ez had his blankie, his little comforter, taken. A Labrador took it in Mozambique, and he still talks about this Labrador that had to take away this blankie because he wanted it in Mozambique. They actually do remember it in their own little ways. Although we've talked about the Himalayas being in hiking in the Himalayas in Namibia, they do get a bit confused, but it's there.
But most kids that age wouldn't have a clue where the Himalayas are anyway, so they're definitely up on the average.
True, and that's the other thing. Their understanding of the world from a very young age is remarkable, and of different cultures, and just respecting different cultures. And they just know that if they get to a temple, they take their shoes off. And they do it when they come to someone's house. They then take their shoes off. It's just all these little things just transform them into the human beings they are. And as I said before, it's like, I enjoy it. I don't want to put my life on hold because I've got kids.
No, and you obviously you've proven that you absolutely don't have to. So one of the things you did after having kids was obviously move to India. So tell me a bit more about that. Why did you go? What was it like?
Well, it was nuts. It was absolutely nuts. But we'd go back in a heartbeat, actually. So the reason we went, we came back to the UK. So we were living overseas prior to this. We were living in Australia and New Zealand, and did a big trip. Came back to have the boys, and we wanted that epic adventure. And my husband, through his work, an opportunity came up for him to work in Bangalore. So yeah, we jumped on that. And living in India, it was every day was an adventure. There were highs, there were lows, there were days when I'd be in tears. There's other days I'd pinch myself and be like, I can't believe this is our life. It was really, really hard at times. I think being a blonde woman with little fair children in India, because Jay, my husband, was at work, so I was with the kids, going around the tuk-tuk, exploring on my own with them. And so we would stick out like a sore thumb, and people they'd come up and they'd like pinch the kids' cheeks, and they'd want selfies with them. So it was quite full on. I'm sure you've experienced that in China, haven't you? Yeah. And it was exhausting. It was really exhausting. But what was fantastic is that Bangalore was a superb base for exploring elsewhere in Asia, because that was back at the day where you could jump on a flight and you could fly wherever you wanted with AirAsia. So we were able to take sleeper trains to Goa, to Hampi. We were able to fly to Nepal, to Sri Lanka, to Thailand. It was a fantastic adventure. But it was very, very hard work at times. But we'd do it all again in a heartbeat. India is one of those places where you either love it or hate it, and it gets under your skin and desperate to go back. But the situation over there is awful. And my heart goes out to them. It really does.
Yeah, it really is. But hopefully sometime in the future we'll get to go and appreciate the beaches of Goa and whatnot. And it will all be
definitely
a dream of that day, but we can hope. So tell me a bit more about the blog then. Why did you start it? What's your journey been like? How has it all come together for you?
So the blog, so we started that, it's been almost 5 years ago now. And we'd been to Morocco, and we'd done a Scotland road trip, and we'd been to Thailand, and I was getting lots of messages from people saying, how do you do it? What do you do? And someone said, set up a blog. And I was like, what's a blog? I had no idea what a blog was. And I needed that cultural outlet, being at home with the kids. So I just set it up and started writing and just connecting with other families. And then when we moved to India, it just took off. It just really took off. And I think it was because there weren't many families living in India and blogging about it and talking about it. So we got a lot of followers through that. And then our Africa trip got a lot of followers. And then we moved back to the UK. And the funny thing is, to professionally run a travel blog, it's so much easier when you're not traveling, because you actually need to sit at your computer and you need to work. So I felt it really wasn't until we got back to the UK that actually the travel blog was able to grow as a business. But it's a very unpredictable business. Like I had a lot of, or have a lot of Sri Lanka content, which was bringing a nice income, but then there was a Sri Lanka bombing, so I lost that. And obviously COVID hit, and yeah, any income I had from that kind of dropped off the cliff last year. So that's why I set up Peak. Say again?
You haven't seen that growing again?
Not a little bit, but not back to where it was, because a lot of our travel on there is Asia and Africa, so it's these big trips that just are inaccessible at the moment. So I've started writing more about our bongo, so that brings quite a lot of traffic now. But actually, for anyone looking to go into blogging now, niche it down. Niche it. Family travel isn't a small enough niche. I've set up Peak District Kids, and last month there were 70,000 page views on Peak District Kids, just on this tiny national park in the UK, which last month was 3.5 times the traffic of Travel and Family. So it's something. It's a learning process, but for now, my main income and my main focus is Peak District Kids at the moment.
And what are the methods that, if somebody wants to get into blogging, what are the methods of monetizing that and turning it into a business and an income? You don't have to tell us your specifics, but
there's so you can look at advertising on your website through other companies. So you can join these advertising companies like Mediavine or Azoic, where they put ads on your website, and you gain an income from how many page views you get from that. You can have affiliate links whereby you suggest an accommodation or a tour, and if people click on your link to buy that, then you earn some commission from that. And people do earn through Instagram as well a lot for promoting brands and products. But personally, I think Instagram's quite a fickle game. It's a platform that could be taken away from you at any time. And for anyone really serious about blogging, invest into your website. That's your baby. That's your website. That's what you have utmost control over.
Thank you for that. Somebody has posted a question. They said, I don't know their name, unfortunately. I think you've got to, for anyone watching, you've often got to approve it. I think there's a little option if you want your name to show. So I'm not sure who actually said this, but they've said, I'd love Jenny's opinion on stargazing as a family holiday option. Would the late nights be awkward to manage or a valid excuse to stay up as a treat? She's an astro-tourism fan without children, by the way.
Oh, definitely. Well, it depends where you are, because in the UK, that postman came. That's what it was. Confused me. If you're in the UK over winter, it's dark at 4 o'clock anyway, so it's not really a problem. So it kind of depends where you are in the world. But once in a while, yeah, kids love that kind of adventure. Tell a kid they're going to stay up till 11 o'clock at night. Oh my word, that would be the most exciting thing that has happened to them that year.
She said it's Sarah Doback, hope I pronounced that right, from Going Cosmic. So that's who posted that comment.
Okay, Sarah.
So, yeah, thank you for that. So what advice would you give anyone who's considering traveling with their children? Because a lot of people are apprehensive, aren't they? So
they are apprehensive. And I think we touched on this earlier. It's don't wait for that perfect age. One, you don't know what's going to happen in the world. We could be hit by a pandemic. I know a lot of people who were planning to, actually us included, we were planning to do a big trip last year. Can't happen because of COVID. You never know what's going to happen in the world. Okay, so don't put it off. And also, this whole idea that it's easier when the kids are older, that every single stage of parenting has its challenges, and I know that people with teenagers have found it very, very hard getting them out to go to temples or going hiking or getting them off their tablets and their devices because they want to connect with their friends. Whereas when they're younger, yes, it's hard work. It's exhausting. But every single stage of parenting has its challenges. Don't put it off. Don't think there's a perfect age to do something. Make it your own and enjoy those memories. But also don't go for that crazy big trip. I've realized that we built up to doing that Africa trip. We had done so many little adventures along the way that doing Africa felt normal to us. So take the kids camping in the UK, then maybe drive over to France, or then maybe then do 2 weeks in Thailand or something. Like there's almost like a level of, like, Thailand's a fantastic place, as you know, to take kids. It's really, really accessible for families. So take those steps and slow down. There's always time to do more.
I think that's a really important message as well, is just slow down, because so many of us are guilty, myself included, of, you know, trying to cram in too many things, and you want to see and do everything, but you actually enjoy it much more if you do just take a step back and have that downtime, especially with kids, but without kids as well.
Yeah, totally.
Okay, so thank you so much. Before I move on, I'll go back a second. Before I move on, thank you so much, Jenny. That's been really interesting. Do you have any other comments or?
No, it's just been really lovely to chat to you, Hayley, because I love following your China adventures, and I feel honoured that you've invited me, because there are so many family travel bloggers around, and Hayley picked me. So thank you for having me on.
Thank you for coming. Jenny does her own talks with different family travel bloggers each week called Bongo Convos. So you can catch them on Instagram. What's your Instagram channel? If people want
Travel Lynn Family. So travel YNN, because Lynn's our surname, family.
Okay, so you can catch lots more family travel tips and advice, and they're really interesting. So I really recommend tuning into those. So next week we have Melissa Warungi, who's going to come and talk to us about funding full-time travel by Forex investments. So that should be quite an interesting one, something that's a bit different. That will be on Wednesday, the 12th of May, 4 p.m. China time and 9 a.m. UK time. And if you are interested, I am just launching some new videos on YouTube. I'm hoping that might take off and I can do some educational videos there. So any subscriptions are hugely, I'll be hugely grateful for that. So you can see the link at the bottom there. I'm also on Twitter, Facebook, Instagram, etc. So do follow along. So thank you so much, Jenny, and we'll tune in next week.
Bye.